Welcome back, people of Earth and all the ships at sea, to the Smooth Thrills Radio Hour Series 2. I am your host, Jason Rutledge. So, in this episode, we're diving into the phenomena of the Satanic Panic of the 1980s, its connection to Dungeons & Dragons, and of course, one of the many movies to come out of the whole mess, Mazes and Monsters. You might notice in this one we talk a lot about two books with a particular connection to this movie. One is The Dungeon Master by William Deere, and the book the movie was based on, Mazes and Monsters by Rona Jaffe. Now, both books have an honored place in the Dick Miller Memorial Library here at the studio. Don't hesitate to pick up copies for yourself. They are both really interesting reads, in particular that first one. Nathan and Katie are back to talk about this movie and everything associated with it. But first, hey Autopilot?
Yes.
Didn't you say that someone sent in a critique of our show?
It's in the voicemails.
Okay, let's check this out.
These people deal with problems in their lives by acting them out. But in this case, there might be a loss of distinction between reality and fantasy, and possibly the loss of life in the process.
You went to Medea on that. Hello?
It's the turkey bites. The turkey bites kicking in.
Nathan, you're not allowed to bring snacks anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the key to not making them smell like morgue farts when you open the bag is to quit closing the bag.
Or just don't eat them.
Well,
it's like a Schrodinger's fart, in other words. It does it
exist
or not exist until you've opened the bag.
I love Schrodinger.
Ricky Schroeder.
Oh, yeah. Too. Quite the philosopher, Ricky Schroeder.
Oh, wait, that's different. That's. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I think he was the kid
that
was born with a silver spoon.
It is Rick Schroeder now.
Like literally born with a silver spoon? I feel bad for his mom.
Yeah, they had to have a dental surgeon came in. It was nasty.
A dental surgeon? Oh, because it's in his mouth. I was like, but you don't need a dentist for birth.
Not for a birth, no. You generally would not go to a dentist to give birth to a child. I would hope not. Unless you had a chatterbox.
I do believe this is my favorite episode so far.
We haven't even talked about the fucking name of the movie yet.
The first time somebody's mentioned the movie Chatterbox probably since...
I think I mentioned it before.
Did you?
Candy
It
Wilson?
sounds familiar.
Okay. He was in all the sex newspapers.
Hey, they're vintage, man. They're going to be worth something.
Okay.
That's not easy to Google search.
Anyway, hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Smooth Thrills Radio Hour Series 2.
Or hello.
Hello. In this episode, we are talking about Mazes and Monsters and its place in the cultural phenomenon of the 1980s known as the Satanic Panic. Mazes and Monsters was the CBS Tuesday night movie of the week in very late December 1982. It's an adaptation of the Rona Jaffe book of the year before, which is itself a retelling of sorts of an urban legend, which is actually based on the very true story of the disappearance of James Dallas Egbert III from the Michigan State University campus in 1978. How that story changed, got filtered, and rewritten led us to this movie and the role it played in the protests, persecutions, and pearl clutching that followed over the next 10 years. Now, how much either of you ever looked into the backstory of this about James Dallas Egbert? We'll just call him Dallas from here on because his name's too long.
Why not Egbert?
I like that better.
You want to call him Egbert?
Yeah.
We can call him Egbert. That's fine. if you're all more comfortable with that. So the differences between
pearl clutching and
Egbert.
No, I'm sorry.
Egbert, yeah. The differences between Rona Jaffe's book and the TV movie are so minor that it's not really even worth mentioning. I mean, they really did almost take it word for word. They shuffled a few things around for time and changed one bit toward the end, but it's so insignificant to the overall story that there's really no need to contrast the two. The big difference comes between Rona Jaffe's book and how it's a very, very thinly veiled adaptation of the Egbert story. What?
I just can't hear it.
Egbert.
I know. I can't hear it and not laugh. I'm sorry. Continue.
It's a tripwire at this point. So
Okay. Anyway.
I'm laughing because she's laughing.
I won't laugh. I won't show my face.
Contagious. No, please.
So, well, there's a couple of different things at work here that caused all of this to happen. I mean, people were had it out for D&D well before this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And well after. It didn't really start anything, but it sure as shit didn't help. I can remember watching this movie, and even at my young age, first playing this game, thought, oh shit, I'm going to be running damage control on this for months. And there's a couple of reasons I felt that way. First, they don't give Robbie, who's the Tom Hanks character in this movie, a name for his problem other than Mazes and Monsters.
Well, yeah.
They don't go into any of his underlying condition. This is the only label they stick on what happened to him.
Well, at the end, in the epilogue, they don't really go into detail. But they just,
epilogue?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm talking about...
Oh, like the end scene. I thought there was like a written thing. I was like, mine didn't have that.
No. Well, it's written as an epilogue in the book.
It fell out of your DVD case, probably. You might want to look on the floor, but no.
For my Monsters and Mazes.
In Jaffe's book, she kind of hints at their problems. I mean, each character gets their own special chapter about how unhappy their childhoods were, and which is followed immediately by a chapter about how unhappy their parents' childhood was, and then alternates like that. Okay. But still, nothing's really very explicit except the Mazes and Monsters connection for all of them. It doesn't go much deeper than that. Now, part of this is because people just had it out for D&D at the time. It was the scapegoat. And also because of how the events of the Egbert story played out and the arrival of the book, which private investigator William Dare wrote. He was the guy that the family hired to find the kid. So a little bit of backstory on Egbert. I'm going to say it as much as I can just to make you laugh. Here we go. You ready? You bracing yourself?
Are you ready for this onslaught of laughter?
Y'all ready for this?
So
Sorry.
The differences between Mazes and the true story. So in Mazes and Monsters, we get the character of JJ, sort of played by Chris Makepeace, although
sort of. What do you mean, sort of?
I don't think he come off as
he did play it. He
was in it, yeah.
He
but
didn't
did you
seem
believe the
bad
character?
at all. I mean, he's a 16-year-old in a college setting. Could you imagine how you would have acted?
Well, we can tell you how Egbert
not
acted.
Like Chris Makepeace.
In the original story, in the true story, James Dallas Egbert was a 16-year-old sophomore at Michigan State. He was a child genius, computer wizard. I think he actually was called on at the age of 15 to repair parts of the computer systems at Love Field here in Dallas.
Oh.
Or maybe it was might have been an Air Force base. I don't remember that well. It's been a while since I read the book.
Air Force Base.
He wanted to fit in, which is hard to do because he's with a bunch of adults doing their adult stuff. You know, there's a lot of drugs going around.
Morgue farts.
There's a lot of hookups going on between students and professors. And the only way he had to get into a group was through D&D. Because otherwise, you know, they didn't want to hang around a 16-year-old. It didn't look good. Even if nothing was happening, it still was kind of, we're going to back off.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So do you think, upon watching this movie, I did not know it was based on an actual thing until after I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get what you're saying about that character's portrayal, especially being based on Egbert, but as its own thing, you don't pick that up at all, that he is portraying that character in a different light or anything like that.
Well, there is a good reason for that. The TV movie was a sort of filtered down and sanitized version of the book, which was in itself very heavily sanitized version of the true story because at the time, nobody knew the true story.
Right. So that book wasn't out yet.
Right. So what happened was Egbert had tons of problems, psychological problems. Mm-hmm. He wasn't getting along with anybody. He was having terrible trouble keeping up his grades. He was collapsing. He was also making his own drugs. He was making PCP in his dorm room and selling it to students to try to get in with them.
Wow.
He was discovering his own bisexuality at the time, which it's not completely clear that anything happened between him and some of the adults, even the professors at Michigan State, but it is heavily implied that something did.
Wow.
And he had his D&D games. JJ in the movie suggests that going down into the caves to play this game has never been done before. That's a bunch of crap. This had been going on way longer than that.
Well, I mean, you even have JJ, who kind of in the beginning alluded to going to the caves to kill himself.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was his first the first time he brought up the caves was, well, I could just go in there and, then I could be legend, basically. And then that's when he decides to turn it into the game.
Students and professors had been playing D&D in the steam tunnels underneath Michigan State for years before this. So he knew about the steam tunnels because of that. And one night he vanished. He went down into the steam tunnels, preparing to kill himself. He took a bunch of pills with him and thought he was going to crawl into an alcove, take all of these pills, which I think he made himself, and just croak right there. But he didn't. He got very sick, crawled out of the tunnels and made it to someone's house that he knew, who took him in. And from there, he got moved from one house to another because, again, he's 16 and no one wants to get caught with this kid. Even if they weren't doing anything, a lot of stuff was going to get exposed, and they didn't. By then, the detective was on the case and was on campus looking for this guy, and they didn't want to have anything to do with it. Detective Dare, I don't think he was a detective. I want to say Private Eye. He was a Seamus. Private Eye. I'll say that. Very famous guy. Some of his cases have been adapted for Magnum P.I., for example. So he was the man. He had a team of people with him. He knew that Englebert had gone into the tunnels and wanted to investigate, but the university wouldn't let him. They said the tunnels were inaccessible, which is crap because everybody had been down there. He went down there. But to do it on an official basis, he had to get the university to agree. And the way he did that was he knew the press was going to be stationed at his hotel waiting for him because he was the one working it. The university cops weren't doing anything. So he decided to use that to his advantage and publicly humiliate the university into letting him down into the tunnels. So I'm going to take a bit from the book here, which became the lightning rod that started this whole thing. So bear with me, please. Driving back to the Red Roof Inn, I knew I'd have to face the reporters, and this time I decided to use the session to my advantage. I was going to have to pretend to be hot, which wouldn't be difficult. I was hot. It was time to shake things up. I don't know what his speaking voice sounded like, so I'm just kind of winging it here. The question and answers lasted 45 minutes, but the important part for me came right at the beginning. I asked for quiet and started talking. I have just been given some further information, which confirms that Dallas Englebert was playing Dungeons & Dragons in the tunnels beneath the campus. This information is absolutely unimpeachable. The university says it's impossible to even get into those tunnels. It is possible. It is in fact easy, and Dallas went into those tunnels. Mrs. Englebert, I might add, told me that Dallas went into the tunnels. I do not know why the university is taking the position that access to these tunnels is impossible, but I know the school is wrong. And he went on and on and on after that. So what part of that do you think the press latched onto almost immediately? The Dungeons and Dragons connection, of course.
Well, yeah. You gotta have a scapegoat for something.
Well, they couldn't.
I think it might have been the Dungeons and Dragons connection.
Well, here's the thing, though. By the time they got access to the tunnels...
I was a little late on that. I'm sorry.
The kid wasn't even down there anymore. In fact, he wasn't even in Michigan anymore. One of the people whose house he was crashing in got him a bus ticket to New Orleans. And he was actually in Morgan City, Louisiana, by the time they even got down into the tunnels to look for him. And as it went on, someone called William Dare and told him, I'll tell you where the kid is, but you have to leave Michigan, because they didn't want any of this blowing back on them. So he came back to Dallas, where he lives. I think he lives in Seagoville, actually.
I like that you say this Dallas.
Yeah. Well, not to get confused with the kid.
Are there other Dallases?
I don't want to get confused with the kid.
I totally forgot his name was Dallas. So I was like...
He gets a call.
You're hung up on the Englebert.
Englebert.
He gets a call that the kid's in Morgan City. He flies out there, picks him up, and takes him home in the space of an hour and a half. So Englebert got rescued. Englebert never told his whole story about what happened in all that time. He told some things, which we know, and I've related here, but he never told his parents anything. He never told the detective anything. In fact, he told William Dare that he knew that the stories about the drugs and the bisexuality was going to come out, and he made Dare promise not to write his book until after his younger brother had gotten out of high school, so the brother wouldn't have to deal with any bullying because of it. Okay. So as a result, the book, which told the actual full story, didn't come out until 1984, and by then, the anti-Dungeons and Dragons crowd and the Mazes and Monsters people had already gotten a 2 or 3 year head start on this thing.
there was no mazes and monsters
No.
thing. It's D&D, right?
Yeah, pretty
They
much.
didn't want to
yeah.
get sued.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
They did not want to get sued by TSR, so they changed the name.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because there have been various tabletop named things
Right,
that
inspired
have
by
been similar to
D&D,
D&D. Yeah. Well, it was interesting because watching it without the knowledge of Egbert and his story and all of that, I did still immediately think of the whole Satanic Panic D&D thing.
Sure.
Like, I did think, like, it definitely, with how that opening scene is portrayed when the news reporter's there and it's like, oh my God, they were playing mazes and monsters. Like, it shows that part of it.
The Satanic Panic, I mean, you can kind of debate when it started and when it sort of ran its course. I mean,
it still, I think, has its roots today. Not as prevalent as it once was.
You know what I mean? I mean, if you wanted to...
It has all different avenues.
If you wanted to, you could take it all the way back to any number of witch trials from whenever you wanted to go back.
I was going to say rock and roll, but you went further back.
Rock and roll and video games nowadays are the new scapegoat. So, I mean, there's always going to be that thing that
and Tejano
your people
Country
are going to...
is also... Okay, that's not at all. Okay,
No.
keep going.
I don't know what that is, so I can't...
I tend to bracket the 1980s panic period with the 1980 publication of Michelle Remembers and the end in 1990 of the McMartin preschool case trial.
What's Michelle Remembers?
So Michelle Remembers was a book written by a psychiatrist or professional shrink named Lawrence Pasdor. So in 1976, he had a patient named Michelle Smith who started therapy with him. And Pasdor spent about 14 months and about 600 hours using his deep hypnosis technique and some very leading questions to recover Michelle's memories of ritual satanic abuse at the age of 5 at the hands of her mother and a satanic cult.
Ooh.
Now, we should say that no evidence was ever found that any of it happened.
I'm going to read this.
Michelle claimed to have been held captive by the cult for its 81 straight days as they performed different rituals on her, to which her teachers replied that they would have had some memory of her being out of class for 81 straight days.
Well, there was also a lot of those where it was like the kids were talking about how they were taken down to the basement of the school and then they were like, but there's no basement in this school and there's tons of...
Oh, it gets worse than that. So, but it didn't matter because everybody saw the Pasdor book and believed it. And
well, of course.
He was on the talk show circuit for years afterwards with this. He married his patient after a while. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the audio people that don't get the visual on this are going to really miss what just happened to my face there. That's horrible.
Talking about the kids making accusations, the biggest one was the McMartin preschool case because it went on for so long.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
So in case, Nathan and our dear listeners, are you familiar?
I'm not going to pretend that I am, no.
So in 1980, it got started really in 1983 when this mother, in a bitter divorce, accused her husband, who was also a preschool teacher, of molesting their son. That turned into the police sending letters to all the parents of all the kids at this preschool with instructions on how to interrogate your kid about what might have happened to them at the hands of this guy at the preschool. It was
basically like a shakedown on all of these children.
Oh, absolutely.
And they were very misleading, or like leading questions and things like that.
The pretrial investigation went on for 3 years, from 84 to 87, and ended with 360 kids claiming to have been ritually abused at this school. Now, I'm going to go through the top 5 allegations that were made, and either one of you just...
the top 5 list?
Yeah, just...
Oh, yeah.
Either one of you just give me a shout when I get to one that you think probably didn't happen. Okay, here we go. Riding in hot air balloons. We're good? Seeing witches fly.
Were they in the hot air balloon?
Don't know. We're still good?
I'm sorry, I should not be joking about this.
We're still good here? Okay. Orgies at car washes and airports.
Totally believe that.
You believe that one? Okay, we got one. You're still with the prosecutors on this one. Children claiming to be flushed down toilets into secret tunnels where they were ritually abused and then cleaned up again before their parents could come pick them up.
Keep going.
And last one is my personal favorite. A lot of the kids were shown a series of photographs and asked to pick out which ones were the ritual abusers, and some of them identified a photo of Chuck Norris.
Poor Chuck.
Still with us on this.
That whole case was just a mess. Very wackadoo.
There were so many of these kinds of cases, though. The McMartin.
I forgot about the toilet thing, though.
The McMartin case ended in 1990, by the way, with 0 prosecutions. They could find absolutely no evidence that anything happened. But if you've ever heard somebody in a crime show say the phrase, "Now show me on the dolly where the bad man hurt you," that's where this comes from. Okay. And there were other cases all over the country that were popping up because of this. I mean, there were kids who claimed that the teachers brought in a giraffe and slaughtered it in front of them to scare them into not saying anything.
That's such a peculiar animal.
Where did they get a giraffe?
Yeah, that's very...
The zoo?
How do you hide a giraffe?
It could have been a baby giraffe.
And it wasn't out in the courtyard. It was in the classroom.
This was a moral panic that always resolved around something else. It couldn't possibly be our parenting. It couldn't possibly be any problems the kids were having. It was something like, say, D&D that was causing this issue. D&D. And the movie Mazes and Monsters... Well, I gave this clip this title. This is the clip where Robbie is first introduced to the other 3 members.
Mazes and drug pushers.
They do. They
push.
If you
I
listen to this,
peddlers.
They push it on him like they're pushing alcohol or drugs. Play the clip and maybe you...
Well, they do.
I didn't go to class very much, and that's not the best thing for my marks.
Why didn't you go to class?
Well, I was into some extracurricular activities. I played a game called Mazes and Monsters a little too much.
You're kidding. What level?
Ninth level.
So am I.
Oh.
Isn't it wonderful to be finally creating your own scenarios?
Yeah, and your own fantasies, too. I'm really gonna miss it.
No, you're not. We have been looking desperately for a 4th player. This is wonderful. Daniel, I want you to meet Daniel. Daniel, meet Robbie.
Well,
he's level 9.
Hey, you gonna play with us?
Well, no, I can't. My folks.
Hey, we're not fanatics.
Well, how often do you play?
A couple times a week.
No, I really have to crack the books.
Really?
No, seriously.
We're level 9.
Level 9? You didn't tell me that. Oh, well, sign him up.
No, I can't. This semester I have to...
No, you can.
Look, please just try one campaign with us.
Yeah.
Really? Good guys. Thanks.
Come on, Robbie.
And if you don't like it, if it's too much, you can always quit.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna be there, I guess I'll have to give it a shot.
All right. Yeah.
You got some glasses?
Yes.
I also love later in the movie where they're like, but we haven't played in like 3 days.
Yeah.
Like it's a life or death situation to be playing Mazes and Monsters.
Well, that's why...
Can we call it Eminem and like D&D?
Sure.
That's what I have on my notes. M&M, actually.
M&M.
And it also says peanut butter, so I don't know if that...
I have M&Ms.
Those are W's.
Oh, WWs.
But you know what this reminded me of, Nathan, was Days of Wine and Roses, when Jack Lemmon is desperately trying to get her to try this drink. It's like, no, it's a chocolate drink. You'll love it. It's sweet. It doesn't taste like alcohol. You join me.
Yeah.
It felt like that to me.
As somebody who doesn't drink, you get this all the time.
Sure.
Well, just one won't hurt you.
Absolutely
like, just have one drink, you know?
They play it like that, though, don't they?
Well,
I'm expecting them to, like, itch and twitch because they're just like, but you're a level 9. You didn't tell us you were a level 9.
Yeah.
It is very drug-esque.
So the guy that they're enticing or they're trying to get into the Mazes and Monsters, he's been in other stuff, right? I've seen him.
Yeah, he looked really familiar to me.
Was he in The Man with One Red Shoe?
He was.
Okay. That's what I thought. Anyway, go ahead.
And Mr. Rogers.
So the transfer here is...
I think he's from Philadelphia.
JJ is now the 16-year-old sophomore, but doesn't have any of the problems that Egbert had. Robbie takes the place of Egbert, only he has friends and Egbert didn't.
So why is that? Why do you think they split the character?
I don't really know.
To give it a more rounded feel.
So or is
because
it
if you
like
only have...
they just didn't want to base it too close to the case, you think?
I think so.
Well, if you just make it about one person, I feel like, especially now knowing it was a TV movie and not just like a regular movie, they needed to make it more...
palatable.
Not necessarily relatable, but yeah, palatable. Like, by rounding out the cast with more people, then instead of just focusing on the one person, then it could be seen more as not necessarily a family movie, but definitely more kid-centric as well. Because it's like, I'm a kid, I have friends, we play this, you know.
Like I said, the movie follows Jaffe's book almost to the letter.
So that's the way it's made up in the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's played.
Is that book her book? I'm assuming that's a her, Jaffe.
Yes.
Yeah. Is hers? What is the genre of hers? Like, what does she market it as?
Oh, I don't know.
It's a tough.
Adventure,
That's a tough genre.
Because she was.
I mean, it's like Manhunter. We're talking.
Well, I'm just saying
like,
because she didn't write a true crime book.
Right.
She was a big enough writer at the time that all they had to do was market it as a Rona Jaffe book.
No, and I understand that. I was just curious
fiction,
because if it was if it was pointed more at kids or like I said with a true crime lens on it, it could have been viewed differently.
Said Cosmopolitan, Rona Jaffe is a master storyteller. This eerie tale follows 4 young college students. Work, love, families, none is powerful enough to withstand the seductive magic of a secret world existing only in their minds.
She makes it sound like a romance novel.
Yeah. Well, it looks like one, doesn't it?
It reads like one.
So,
I mean, there is no subtext in this at all. She tells you exactly what to think about all of the characters.
I wonder if it's available in audio. Had I known there was a book, I really dropped the ball because usually I read the books with the...
It says Rona Jaffe's Mazes and Monsters.
She was named associate producer on it also.
Just because she's named on it doesn't mean she wrote a book.
On the movie.
Yeah, but if I wasn't familiar with her, I wouldn't have known that she wrote a book about it.
Like I said, it's...
Never mind. That's a totally different movie.
Nobody knew the full story.
Go ahead.
Well, nobody knew the full story of Egbert, and even if they had, I don't think they would have adapted that because it's just too...
I mean, honestly, this movie gets dark. There were parts of this movie where I was like, is this really going the direction I thought it was going? Like, it gets depressing.
Yeah.
Well, one big difference is in the movie, Robbie stabs a guy that's trying to mug him in an alley. Book Robbie gets picked up by an older man and taken back to a hotel to render some services for him and stabs him in the hotel room.
So that's basically like the real story. Because if you allude it back
had
to
she known
possibly the teachers preying on him and all.
Yeah.
Well,
but we don't know how much information was out before that book came out.
Not a lot. It was mostly just rumors.
Well, I mean,
speculation.
The fact that, but she may have written it off those rumors is
Certainly.
what I'm saying.
I don't doubt that at all.
If there were rumors of the teachers possibly preying on him and things like that.
Right.
And the fact that he's just a troubled teen in general, you have obviously you have so many options to go with.
What the movie also does is skip over all of the backstories that give any depth to these characters.
Completely.
And solely
even with the parents, you
sticks
said.
the blame on this game. Like, for example, Kate in the movie is frightened of the dark because she was once attacked.
Freak out in the cave.
She was once attacked during a blackout in their laundromat at the dorm. Now, they don't put this in the movie, obviously.
No, they should have made this a miniseries.
But that goes
that
further
could have been a 2-part movie
to explain their mindsets and why they did the things they did. In the movie, it's strictly game evil, game bad.
Yeah, there's jumps
game
that
evil.
it makes.
Parents don't understand the kids. It's very kid rebels from parents, plays game bad.
Exactly.
Like it is very much that.
Although at the
It
same
served a
time,
purpose.
I don't think that it's that harsh on D&D. Do you?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, it
Like
has
it doesn't
its,
frown on it. It doesn't seem like it does. It kind of treats
You
whatever
can
they're into
tell that-
respectably.
I mean, the parents don't.
Well, they
Especially when
may
you meet
not, but I
Robbie's
mean,
parents.
you're not like invested
Which-
to the point where you're thinking all 4 of these people are going down this pathway to hell, right?
True.
You don't think
The
that
parents are
Well,
virtually
true.
non-existent in this movie, though.
in the beginning and
really.
the end, really, yeah.
I feel like with what little bit we saw the parents, it gives you enough to know.
Yeah, especially
Like
in
it
the
explains
ending
JJ's
with Vera Miles.
JJ's being alone. I want to mine a bird.
Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is now the second thing I've watched in the last few months that's had a mine a bird in it, and now I want to mine a bird.
I want a Casablanca decorative scheme in my bedroom, like he had.
I mean, I did like the chairs.
that final bedroom was pretty cool.
Yeah, the hospital version,
Not
not
so
so
much.
much. Yeah,
They look like an abattoir.
mean-
yeah.
You fully expect to see a cow hanging from the ceiling.
Some people could be into that, and I don't even mean like that. Oh.
So Robbie's descent into madness starts really quickly in this movie as he starts becoming Pardue, who is a character and not a brand of butter like Land O'Lakes, which I would have originally thought.
Every time they said Pardue, all I could think of was
Ragu.
Gerard Depardieu.
Wow.
Huh.
Isn't that his name?
Yeah.
Gerard Depardieu?
Yeah.
But that's all I could think of every time they would say Pardue. I'd be like, Gerard
And Gerard
Depardieu.
Depardieu would have been starting his 10 bottles of wine a day habit right around this time.
Damn.
Which could, you could blame that on D&D. Who knows?
You could. They would have, I'm sure. Yeah, as he becomes Pardue, we get these very interesting scenes, like his dream imagining about his missing brother, who is at the now backlit.
Yeah, they really glossed over that.
Yeah, they could have gone like a lot of.
Well, I just mean the characters. Because he tells her, and then she's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like.
Well,
And it took her way too long to realize that that's what he was going for.
I might be jumping ahead here, but the way the movie handles it is there's like this, once you know that the Robbie character is a little bit off, literally 4 minutes of screen time goes by, and I can't tell if there was a commercial break in there. I don't
Probably
think there
not.
was. To the point where he's already broken up with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And Kate's telling the other guy how wacky he is. So 4 minutes. We have the dream sequence. We got all that.
We got
You're
this.
like, God damn, they could have spent 20 minutes on that.
Astonishing dream sequence. We're going to play a clip of here. Just imagine in your head.
Is it
your lost
Tom
brother?
Hanks voicing him?
I think so.
His brother?
Okay.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
But his brother, who is now backlit severely at the end of a drain pipe and talking to Robbie in his sleep.
Who are you? I am the Great Hall. Once you gloried in killing, now you are of a higher level. To attain the highest level, you must be holy in all your life. You must be pious, humble, celibate.
But I walk with Glacier the fighter.
The holy man must walk alone.
No, wait, please. Great Hall, I need you.
When you are worthy, then you will come to the two towers and be one with the Great Hall.
Wait! Hall, please! Wait!
What's weird is I don't know if you saw, but he has a boner. Also,
I didn't notice that. No, like you said, it's a dark transfer. So you're a parent in the Midwest. You're watching this, and it's scaring the piss out of you because you think,
"Oh, are you saying that about Katie?
That's going to be my kid."
You're a parent in the Midwest.
I'm not a parent in the Midwest.
But you get what I'm saying, though. You can see where
if you were in the Midwest, you would be a parent.
Because you guarantee
Apparently.
a lot of parents did not read this book. A lot of parents didn't care to look into any of this stuff. They see this movie, they see something like that. It's like, why am I not watching Three's Company? That was on tonight. I'm watching this.
Yeah, well, it was a rerun, probably.
Probably by then, yeah.
It was December 28th.
Did the book sell well?
I don't know.
Jason bought a copy.
You do so much research.
Well, they
but not on books.
certainly act like it did on the cover of this thing with all the
What's it say?
better than
Actually-
anything else Rona Jaffe has ever written.
Damn, that might just be a slight on her.
That could be.
They're just throwing shade at her. They're like, how do we get her to quit writing?
Trying to see what printing this was.
It's like Halloween 6 is the best Halloween movie in the franchise.
No, I have no idea how well it did. Well enough to have a TV movie made, at least.
That
course,
doesn't
they
mean
were all
anything
just
back
cashing
then,
in.
especially if it had motive.
If
that movie had motive to push the slight of the Satanic Panic on D&D,
It was.
then they would have thrown money at it immensely.
Right, that's enough to
The
get
book
it
was
into
exploitation. The movie was exploitation. Both. No question about it. And
I
Do we know what her other books were like?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm not going to read every damn one of her books to find out.
I didn't mean read it. I meant like story-wise. Did she write fantasy? Did she
No,
write?
I don't think so.
Like that's what I meant.
No, I don't think
Goodness.
so. I think this is just adult drama. The stuff you want to, it's the kind of books you take to the beach with you to read casually while you're.
I don't consider this adult drama. Like I know that they are adults because they're in college, except for JJ. But I wouldn't have considered this book adult drama. But what do I know?
It's a valid opinion.
That I wonder about it.
I know I didn't mean that in a negative way. I just I personally would. It's like things that they consider young adult and things like that. It's like, would that really have fallen there?
I don't think that this is marketed toward anyone but
Children.
adults. Yeah. It just doesn't look like a real page turner.
It just feels like a kid's movie, minus
It
the
feels like a
motive
teen
behind.
adult kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I would have watched this. A tadult.
There you go.
A tadult.
Not a tween.
Well, this was no
Tween.
joke. I mean, everybody was jumping on this bandwagon. And
Even Fred Astaire.
I've put together a brief clip here of a 60-minute story that ran in 1985 about Dungeons and Dragons that I've cut down to about a minute and a half, just to give you some idea of the intellectual
We
investigations.
don't get to see all 60 minutes?
No, you don't want
There's different stories. With
to. This is just to give you a flavor.
and Annie Rooney. You don't want to sit through that.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
Unless it's Joe Piscopo doing it.
This is really just to give you an idea of what kind of conversation was happening around this at the time.
D&D, and it's become popular with children anywhere from grammar school on up. Not so with a lot of adults who think it's been connected to a number of suicides and murders. The idea of the game, which is played by highly imaginative and intelligent kids, is to assume the role of one of the characters. One game can go on for weeks or even months. The problem seems to be that some kids take it more seriously than others, take it a step further, playing a character who brings them the power in a game they couldn't possibly get in real life. Timothy Grice, 21, a shotgun suicide. The detective report noted, D&D became a reality. Irving Bink Pulling, 16, an avid D&D player, a suicide. Daniel and Stephen Irwin, 16 and 12, a murder and a suicide. The police said they were obsessed with the game. James Allen Kirby, 14 years old, charged with killing his junior high school principal and wounding 3 other people. Police are blaming D&D. Dr. Thomas Radecki is a psychiatrist who teaches at the University of Illinois Medical School and who is chairman of the National Coalition on Television Violence.
Is not coincidence, not when you have careful documentation, you have careful notes, you have eyewitnesses. For instance, one case, the parents saw their child summon Dungeons and Dragons demons into his room before he killed himself. Another case, the kid thought he had the ability to astral travel, coming from the Dungeons and Dragons game, that he could leave his body and come back. And he had rigged it up just according to the rule book so he could do it. He was surrounded by his materials and put a bullet in his head so he could leave his body, and he's never come back.
Children are dying, Ed. Children are dying out there, and people are not telling.
This is literally what they do now with video games.
That last voice you heard is Patricia Pulling. She formed
Something out of her ass, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no kidding. She formed the Bothered by Dungeons and Dragons group in 1985.
That's the name of it?
Yep.
Bothered by?
Yeah. After her son committed,
PBDG.
Well, her son committed suicide in 1982, and she believed it to be a Dungeons and Dragons curse that had been placed on him.
Oh my God.
She also
Was he do you know if he was an avid player or no?
He was.
Okay.
But still. Patricia also claimed to a Richmond newspaper that 8% of the residents of Richmond, Virginia were Satanists. No evidence to back that up.
I used to live near Richmond, Virginia, and no, I'm just kidding.
Well, she also claimed...
I'm not kidding that I used to live near there, but I'm kidding about the other part.
Her actual
9%.
Her actual claim, Katie, was that 4% of the adults and 4% of the children were in Satanists. Therefore, 8% of the population was Satanists. And
so my thing was the 4% that were
kids.
kids. Well, if those 4% that were kids, were they the kids of the adults? Because then that would make sense at least. Or were they kids that belong to other adults?
That is as specific as it got. But yes, you're right. This is the same
That's
argument.
because they have nothing to found it on.
Yeah.
They're like, let's just throw the most random shit out there and hopefully something will stick.
Well, yeah, that's how all of this worked. You can draw a straight line from the D&D scare to the PMRC or to
What's that?
Parents Music Resource Council, which held their hearings. It was the wives of a bunch of senators that, including Gore's wife.
I was going to say she did. Tipper. Okay, then I am familiar with it. I've just never heard it as an acronym.
You could draw a straight line to that. You could draw a line from this to heavy metal music bad, kids wear black t-shirts bad, which gets you to the West Memphis 3.
Oh God.
Well, that goes back to Judas Priest.
It is the same arguments over and over. Yeah, backmasking on Judas Priest records led our kid to suicide. And also, I played D&D. I do not remember anywhere in the Magic User's Guide referring to having a gun to shoot yourself to astral project. Where did he get the gun? That's glossed over completely. It was all the fault of this game.
Well, because you don't want to put it on the fault of the people for owning guns. It's the game. Like, it...
I will also mention...
It's just a convenient...
I didn't cut this
blame.
There's nothing that I cut out there. When the guy says parents actually witnessed their kids summon a Dungeons & Dragons demon right there in front of them, that goes unquestioned in this report.
My thing is
No
if
one
the
calls
parents
about
saw
it.
that, what were they on?
Nobody asks about it. Nobody follows up on it. It's just taken for granted that that's what happened.
That's why I kind of like laughed when he said it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And
with complete seriousness.
What's the absurdity of it?
Yeah, he believes it though.
Certainly.
He believes that. Yeah.
And he's a doctor. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
But it did say on the bottom, it said his name, Dr. Detroit. So,
did it?
Yeah. I think he has it out for Mother.
It's not time to call the doctor. No. It's not a serious case.
I sense dismay.
No,
And
just,
thirst.
I don't know. And thirst. I just don't know. That's now my new thing if I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
The movie isn't quite a hate watch, but it is so cringy.
I don't think so. I think it's a product of its
makes
time.
you go, oh God, really?
And they're
His
supposed to be like
performance is a little cringy,
nerdiest
though.
of nerdy. Who's?
Hanks. Because he's like, I don't know what's going on anymore. And it's just like, all right.
Could you listen, you want to hear a funny story? I fell asleep the other night and woke up in the kitchen. Could you imagine if you fell asleep and woke up in New York, how you would be feeling? Because it freaked me out just to wake up in the kitchen in my same apartment.
Okay.
Just saying. Like, I love when people are, and this isn't a jab at you, Nathan, but I like when people are like, but look how we acted. Okay, put yourself in those shoes. How would you have acted?
Why are you attacking me, Katie?
Woke up randomly in New York with blood on your hands holding a knife when the last thing you remember was going to bed in your college dorm.
And then I met up with Paul Hogan and he's like, that's not a knife. That's a knife. No, sorry.
I see you've played Knifey Spoony before.
Oh, I laughed when I was watching this morning because they bring up Star Trek and I was like, oh, they did your guys' job for you.
Shit, that's the first drop of Star Trek in this episode. Wow.
We didn't do it at all in the last episode.
I think I did. I think I thought I did.
Maybe I zoned out.
Maybe
then.
if we play the episode backwards, we'll hear the secret message.
Ooh, there you go.
Drops a Star Trek reference.
That's true. And we got to talk about the Great Hall, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
How about the fact that they never...
Well, of course. Especially when he does David Byrne.
When you guys heard Two Towers, what did you think of first? Lord of the Rings or New York City?
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And he even says that.
I thought
JJ
in
says
New York.
it. Yeah. Well,
yeah, I know
you know that that's going to be the Twin Towers.
It took them being in New York to finally go, oh shit, there's buildings here called the Two Towers.
That when it takes him that long, I'm like, what the hell, dude?
And if she liked him so much, why did it take her that long to remember that he had a missing brother named Hall?
Yeah, that's true. She's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That one time before we made out, he told me about his brother. No.
There are a lot of problems in this movie that could have been resolved.
There's a lot of
2 or 3 conversation.
That's why I'm saying it could have been a mini series. There's a lot of exposition that's just not there.
Oh, the exposition is taken verbatim from this book.
Yeah, but it's
really
like
is.
you said you dropped the backstories from the book.
And the parents too. Like they talked more about the parents' upbringing and then that we don't get any of that.
Well, honestly, when I got to those
this
parts of the book,
movie.
I kind of skipped them because I didn't care.
Well, do they have an impact on the actual characters or not?
Not really.
It's just
He
fleshes
doesn't know,
it
he
out.
didn't read them.
Well, we do know that they had sex. But if Jason didn't read that part, he might not know that they bear children.
I feel like they did. Who?
Never mind. The parents.
I don't know.
I thought you
The
meant
backstory
when
of
you
the
said they
parents
had
having
sex.
sex,
I thought.
hence
Oh,
the
okay.
kids.
I thought you
Anyway.
meant Tom Hanks and.
Well, I don't know about
woman.
that. Maybe that's in the book. It looks like a
That's why
romance
when you
novel.
said kid, I was like. I mean, we knew they were doing it because his dead brother told him he couldn't anymore because he
Yeah,
was
that's true.
a holy man.
But we never got a scene where he's like, but I haven't popped my cherry yet. And then he was like, well,
He paused in the middle of it like that too.
yeah. And then his brother's like, look, I know, I can see all. I know you haven't popped your cherry. I'm just saying, when you get to that point, celibacy.
Celibacy. So you want to? Okay, so I started this movie, and they go to school, and then they're all like, "Let's play D&D," and it immediately made me think of Shockma. Because remember when they go to the school because they're playing that like weird
Joe would love
like
this
fantasy based.
He loves Shockma.
But they play that. Shockma's fantastic.
Yeah,
that was my first AGFA screening I ever went to.
But anyway, yeah, what got you from this to Shockma?
Well, because when they all go back to the building in Shockma, it's to play some weird fantasy based game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
There just happened to be a weird rabid killer monkey.
And then there was a reference to Denton in this, and that made me think of Shockma treatment. Okay, I'm sorry. There's no reference to Denton. I just had to.
Oh my god.
I was like, I watched this. I don't remember that, but I do like Shockma. I mean,
Shockma treatment.
Yeah. We should mention that that private investigator William Deere is sort of represented in this movie.
Did you say you should mention it like you were telling me to mention it?
Yes.
I don't even know. Okay, we go ahead. Tell me.
Oh, by the way, the private investigator was sort of represented in the film.
Yeah.
By the character of Detective Martini, as portrayed by Murray Hamilton.
Oh, that's right. The great Murray Hamilton. Who is in what movie?
I don't know. Can't think of it off the top of my head.
Am I supposed to know
If
this?
we mention Star Trek, what other movie do we reference do we usually drop?
Jaws.
There you
3D.
go. Well, he's in Jaws. And Jaws 2. But anyway.
Well, you always specify Jaws 3D.
Well, he was in the shark's stomach in Jaws 3D, so you didn't see him that much.
No, that's Simon McCorkindale. God damn.
Corkindale didn't make it all the way
Wait,
down.
hold on. Never mind. I'm not going to put myself
That's
out
Nirvana.
there for that. We'll deal with that in the Jaws
We're all mixed
episode.
up.
Okay.
No, I was still talking about Jaws. I wasn't even listening.
Always. Can we get off the subject of Jaws, please?
I did kind of like how when Robbie gets to New York, we know it's New York because of all the loud, squonky saxophone music they throw in there.
Yeah, it's nightmare mode. Yeah. But you know what's cool? When I talked to you about mentioning this, how it had some great New York shots, and you get like some pretty awesome movie posters in the background.
That's true.
Central to 82 when this was shot.
Yeah.
An officer and a gentleman.
Yeah.
An officer and a gentleman.
That one too.
Do you remember?
And Amityville 2, The Possession.
Yeah. Oh, and JJ has a Blade Runner poster up in his dorm room.
Yeah, and in that same dormitory, there's another movie poster. Do you know what it is?
Oh, I can't think of it. What is it, Nathan?
It's an Australian film from 81 that released here in 82.
Mad Max? Mad Max Road Warrior, Red Mad Max.
Road Warrior.
Okay, I must admit, I don't know how I missed that one.
It's in that hallway in the background. There's a lot of scenes just as much as the Blade Runner
Is it the scene where they were looking for Robbie when they were talking to the other students?
It might have been. It's in that back top corner. Yeah. There's a lot of hallway scenes, and you see it in there quite a bit. And then the other thing I was going to say about the Great Hall.
Yeah.
It's another type of Great Hall that has to do with this movie. And it is the actor who played Gorville, which is the demon that he sees.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Kevin Peter Hall.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. And he ended up going off to play the Predator after.
Oh, he's the Predator.
After Jean-Claude Van Damme was taken out of it. Yep. And he also did the TV series of Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah.
I love Harry and the Hendersons.
And he sadly passed away not long after Predator 2.
Really?
So, yeah.
He was also in Star Trek.
Yeah, he did a lot of.
And Big Top Pee-wee.
There you go. Yeah, he did a lot of great stuff.
Unlike that Hanks guy, which we never.
He
heard
didn't
from
do
again
much
after
else. I know he got married. He had a bachelor party, and then and there was a big splash about that. But
oh my God, I love this.
I don't know what else he could have done.
If I wanted to see him cry on top of a big building in New York, I would have just watched Sleepless in
He
Seattle.
moved with his wife out to the burbs, I heard.
That's true. Yeah, he had some cantankerous
I hear he
neighbors.
gets mail.
Yeah.
I wanted to put Joe versus the volcano in there.
Yeah,
but I didn't
you know what?
there.
I thought about that.
Where would you go with that? The brain fog or the?
I would just reference Abe Vigoda some kind of way.
Vigoda, the Orange Shasta.
Now I just want to have a Tom Hanks marathon.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of that.
Dragnet, Turner and Hooch.
Well, this was his first leading role in a movie, and His entire career rested on this. This was the cornerstone.
Was his Mazes and Sheaves.
Was his last dramatic scene in this movie.
Which kind of illustrates my point.
Robbie! Pardue, what are you doing?
Going to join the Great Hall.
You can't. It's a trap.
I have spells. I'm going to fly.
You don't have enough points. I am the maze controller.
Maze controller?
Yes. And I have absolute authority in this game.
Game?
Game.
TJ, what am I doing here? Kate, why can't I remember?
The friend you can turn to when cold winds blow, and then you'll know that now and forever we're friends in this world.
So can we talk about their freaking reactions to the fact that he still thinks he's in a game? Like, the mother should have warned them of that before they walked out there.
That's the other thing I was going to say. She talks about, hey, it's not your fault. I think
she's also in denial over it.
She knows that he has this, he's got mental issues.
I mean, I think it's a decent representation of mental illness, whether you think Tom Hanks does a good job or not.
Well,
I think he does a good job.
Award-winning representation.
No, I think he does a good one, but there's moments like that where you could just dial it a certain direction a little bit. You know what I mean?
Also, can we talk about the fact that they wouldn't quit calling him Robbie, and they know that he thinks he's Pardue? Why wouldn't they just fucking call him that from the beginning? Sorry, I didn't mean to drop an F-bomb. I know Jason tries to keep these curse-free.
Except for D&D curses.
I could be wrong. But it's like, when they're trying to get his attention when he's up a floor, and they're like, Robbie, and he's clearly not listening. Like, you know he thinks he's Pardue, so why wouldn't you just say that?
Well, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about the conclusions they make after the fact.
They're clearly not the most keen investigative minds.
And they seem like very bright kids, and one of which is a child prodigy. Exactly. So it's like, duh.
Can't pick up on social cues.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
It is implied in this movie that they don't really do that good a job of explaining how any of them got to this point. And granted, it's a TV movie, you've only got so much time. So they skip over a lot. But even a little bit would have been nice.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. That's the other thing I was going to ask.
Because my brother disappeared on Halloween one night does not get you to this.
Oh, I thought you were telling me a story. Okay.
I was like, Jason has a brother?
That's not enough of an explanation to get you to this.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I don't know, draw your own conclusions. But that's what I was wondering, like, Rona Jaffe's name is above the title on the movie in the credits at the beginning. So they're really kind of pushing the whole fact that this is based on that novel. I would have thought that it could have done a miniseries with this, like a 2-part, like a conclusion, what happens to Robbie when he's in New York, that kind of thing. That's the second night, but yeah, it seems too pressed together.
There's that, and it was a Tuesday night movie that came in between Christmas and New Year's.
True.
So it kind of feels like
fully sponsored by Procter & Gamble, by the way.
It was their studio.
Yeah.
That's
Procter & Gamble Studio produced it.
And it's got weird, I don't know if it's truly public domain or not. Because in this movie.
The movie?
Because in the 90s.
The fact that it's free on YouTube might allude to that some.
Well, you would think so, yeah. And I don't think this is an official release.
The DVD?
This is the same company that put out Mansion of the Doomed, and that was not based on any kind of contractual. They were the first ones to put it out on DVD. But anyway, In the 90s, there was a few video companies that distributed this, like as a budget title that was public domain. That was like Eddie Entertainment and Front Row Entertainment and a few others. TBS Nightflix used to play this all the time. And you knew you were like, oh, shit. I wanted Night of the Cobra Woman. I got Mazes and Monsters because it's a TV movie. You want an exploitation film, a true exploitation film at that hour, but, well.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be Squirm tonight. There might be squirming, but it won't be the Squirm.
It's probably also true that without all those replays, this movie would have been forgotten for good.
Probably, yeah. CBS ran it a couple more times, at least in the 80s. They did it like every 2 years they would show it.
Probably once a new preschool case would come up, they would pop this one out to take advantage of it.
Have you ever, it's funny that you bring up that Procter & Gamble made it. Because have you heard any of the rumors and speculation that they've been a Satanist company?
I've heard that.
Okay. And it goes all the way back to the 80s. So it's interesting that this film
So it's like Damage Control?
I wonder, because I didn't know watching it that it was distributed by them. So it does make you wonder if this wasn't maybe part of them being like, because I just Googled to see how far back those allegations have been coming up, and it's been since the 80s.
Wasn't it somebody like overanalyzed their logo and decided it had satanic
But that was a more current thing. So yeah, I don't know if their logo has changed over the years or not. But I remember because back in the day when my parents owned a business, they did contractual work for Procter & Gamble in Baltimore. And I remember
blood signatures.
Yeah, that's why me and my sister were taken up there. And I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But it does make you wonder. Wait, I heard that stuff back then, that they were dabbling in that kind of stuff. So it's interesting now knowing that they made this film, if that isn't part, like Nathan said, damage control.
Well, the panic spread fast, and it was almost like the Red Scare. It was everywhere. Everybody was getting accused. Every movie, every video, like maybe not so much video games in 1980 or 92. I mean, no one was accusing Pac-Man.
I don't know. Mario was pretty shiesty.
Asteroids of being satanic.
Elevator action led to a lot of intrigue.
Burger Time, heavily satanic.
Burger Time, yeah.
Dude, Burger Time.
That's the best game right there. That's my fave.
It's frustrating.
Donkey Kong and its giant blasphemous monkey.
You're just saying that because you're vegan.
No, I mean, I don't think I've played Burger Time since then. But
well, realistically,
it's like Root Beer Tapper.
Realistically, all this stuff did, all this movie did, all the book did was make D&D and everything about it even more popular than it had ever been. Same thing happened with the Parents Music Resource Committee. They made every album they brought in front of that committee staggeringly popular.
It still exists now with other things.
Sure.
It's almost like the more fight you have against it, the more people want it.
Absolutely.
True. I do have to say.
Or at least.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, or at least want to know about it.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't necessarily want anything to do with it.
I just wanted to just press the point that we're not, when we say Procter & Gamble, we are not talking about Lance Kinsey at all, who played Procter in the Police Academy films. He is not a Satanist.
If you say so.
He can't be. He's too damn lovable.
Although
that's true. That could go either way. You're right.
Because look at all of the really shisty, horrible religious people. I mean.
So, Mazes and Monsters. Watch it if you want to. I don't think you're not going to get much out of it just as a movie.
What happened to the kid, though?
I don't know. I did.
Egbert?
Yeah.
Egbert,
after his rescue, he spent some time living with William Dare, I think, off and on before he was confident enough to move back in with his parents. He's kind of got his act together. He got a job. He was writing letters back and forth to Dare about how things were looking up for him, but the letters took a turn.
Like as in Dare, as in the drug campaign?
No, the detective.
Oh, I forgot his name. Sorry. I was like...
But he started complaining that his mother was again badgering him and pushing him. He was heading down a dark path again, and then about a year after his rescue, in the next year, he put a gun to his head and shot himself.
Oh, wow.
And then died on a respirator 7 days later.
Holy shit.
So whatever happened with him by the time he got to the steam tunnels and ended up in Morgan City went to the grave with him. Wow. No one will ever know.
Did they ever say if he, and I'm just reaching here, did he have a brother that went missing? Like, where did that part come from?
No, he had no. His brother did not.
I was just curious.
It was made up for the book.
But they have also said, too, that people with higher IQs, because they said that Albert Einstein struggled with this a lot, of just being able to communicate and deal with normal people on a normal day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm sure it had its mental toll on him, plus on top of being in an environment where he is 16 and nobody's going to want to deal with the underage kid, plus having the drug addiction. Like, it couldn't have been easy. Plus he had, it seems like, a lot of pressure from his mother to just be more than probably. And I mean, you even feel that kind of with some of the characters in the film, because is it Danny? He wanted to make video games, and his dad's like, you can't do that. Like, no respectable child of mine is going to be a video game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it kind of, I don't know. That's just sad.
So you said you played D&D? Or you?
Me?
I did, yeah.
Well,
I was like, no.
Way back in the day, yeah.
No, I'm not made for it.
I haven't touched it in a very, very, very long time.
It gives me major anxiety.
But I was familiar with it for a number of years, yeah.
My mom played it back in the day.
What about me?
I don't know.
Did you play it, Nathan?
No, but I did play CNC, Music Factory.
You wanted so badly someone to set that up for you. We should have just never asked.
Why do we keep falling into that trap, Katie? Why do we keep doing this with Nathan?
What?
Because it's fun.
I can't help it if I'm going to make you sweat.
Oh, I mean, I am pretty sweaty. I turned the air off for the recording.
Just let the rhythm take control. That's all you gotta do. Let the rhythm move you, Katie. So with that, we'll draw the episode to a merciful close. If you watch Mazes and Monsters, you'll get a feel for what's in the book. And please, if you can, look into the whole history of Dallas Egbert III.
And
also, while you're at it, look up Englebert Humperdinck.
Englebert Humperdinck.
Great hits.
His trials, yes. And
don't overshadow Egbert with Englebert
Humperdinck. That can't be helped. He has such a sensational
I feel like
career.
You're going to put a lyric in here that I'm not going to know about.
Well, I mean, a bit of a quiet night.
Make it an Englebert night. Oh, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
And with that, another show has drawn to a close. Thank you for listening. The Smooth Thrills Radio Hour is a production of Ghostcraft and is recorded live in Dallas, Texas. Please email your questions and comments to autopilot at smoochthrillsradiohour.com. Enjoy the rest of your day. Kisses.
Nowhere to go. It's hopeless, so guess I'll leave it alone.
JJ, what am I doing here?